Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
Think about that moment of just pure adrenaline, that sudden, inescapable emergency on the road. A distracted driver pulls out, a tire blows, maybe debris just appears out of nowhere in your path.
And you know instinctively that just slamming on the brakes, it might not be enough.
Exactly. You need space. You need to maneuver.
And that maneuver, well, 99 times out of 100, it's a lateral move. It's that immediate decision to use the space right beside you.
Right.
So this deep dive is focused entirely on that. It's the cornerstone of proactive driving. Analyzing, identifying, and then committing to an escape route to the side.
Before the crisis even happens.
Before you even know it's coming.
So our mission for you, the listener, is to basically provide a shortcut. A shortcut to becoming a more proactive and, frankly, a more confident driver.
Yeah, we're systematically looking at how to strategically use that precious side space.
Whether that's just a narrow lane margin in rush hour traffic.
Yeah. Or, a soft shoulder on a quiet back road. It's all about dramatically reducing your collision risk.
We're treating that space as an asset, not just empty real estate.
And the core question we're tackling is, well, it's multifaceted. How do you identify a safe, a viable side exit in advance?
And what are all the critical instant factors that decide whether that escape path is actually safer than just staying put?
We're trying to replace the panic swerve with a pre-planned, controlled execution.
So we're talking about more than just maintaining your following distance. This is about maintaining an immediate out.
Is.
What's the biggest advantage of prioritizing a lateral escape path?
The biggest advantage is time. It really is. An escape route is simply having enough available, usable space.
To redirect your momentum.
Exactly. When danger just materializes too quickly for a full stop. When you analyze crash statistics, you see it over and over.
What's that?
The majority of high-speed collisions involve a failure to utilize existing space. That buffer, that option, is what turns a high-impact crash into, well, a really close call.
So it moves us from purely reactive driving, just mashing the brake pedal, to active multimodal control.
Precisely. Maintaining that escape route isn't some secondary consideration. It is absolutely fundamental to advanced defensive driving.
And the key benefit?
It drastically reduces your cognitive load during an emergency.
Ah, that's interesting.
Think about it. If you already know that the right shoulder is clear or that the lane next to you is empty, you don't spend precious milliseconds in a crisis analyzing your options.
You just execute the move you've already planned.
You execute.
I love that idea of reducing cognitive load. So it means we're not just encouraging basic continuous scanning, that 360-degree awareness.
No, we're demanding a purposeful scan. You're on a constant search for viable exit.
You're essentially building a mental inventory of your surroundings.
That's a great way to put it. You're not just looking at the car in front. You're assessing the road surface 50 yards to your right, checking the car behind you.
Verifying if you can even legally use that space for a second.
All of that. And this awareness feeds directly into that crucial concept of the buffer zone.
And when we talk buffer zone, we're not just talking about the car length ahead of us. We're talking about the side envelopes.
Absolutely.
If I'm pinned between a semi-truck on my left and a concrete barrier on my right, my buffer is compromised.
And your options are zero. That's the critical distinction. That space cushion has to include your sides.
Because if you're positioned right, you have room to move without hitting someone else.
Which prevents a secondary, and often worse, accident. A well-maintained side buffer gives you confidence. It actually makes you less likely to overreact.
It changes the whole experience from being a constant game of reaction to being, the quarterback of your immediate traffic zone. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
Right.
When that danger suddenly appears, the decision to steer to the side has to happen in a blink. It's not just seeing an open space.
No, it's an instantaneous assessment of dozens of factors.
So it's not a risk-free choice.
Never. Steering laterally is never risk-free. You are trading a known hazard, the danger ahead, for a potential unknown hazard in that escape route.
Okay, so let's run through the mandatory checklist.
The
things that have to be processed in a fraction of a second.
Let's do it.
Let's start with the immediate physical environment, road conditions, and shoulder assessment.
The first thing, you have to know the quality of the surface you're about to drive on.
Is it paved and level?
Or is it soft dirt, gravel, or even worse, wet grass? If you steer onto gravel at highway speed, your traction just plummets.
And your steering becomes unpredictable.
Completely. And beyond that, you have to mentally inventory the fixed obstacles. Guardrails, utility poles, drainage culverts.
Deep ditches.
Right. Steering away from a rear-end collision only to hit an immovable object on the shoulder is, well, it's a catastrophic failure of planning.
Okay, so beyond the physical road, we also have to account for the dynamic, moving targets all around us, traffic density.
Absolutely crucial. Assessing surrounding vehicles means knowing who is in the adjacent lanes, who is directly behind you, and of course, oncoming traffic.
And blind spots.
You must know your blind spots are clear before any lateral input. If a car is pacing you in the next lane, you cannot escape in that direction. Your only option is the other side or braking.
Wait a minute, though. If I'm forced to make this split-second move, doesn't that half-second I spend checking my blind spot? Doesn't that make the difference between a close call and a collision?
That's a fantastic question, a really challenging one.
Right.
It highlights the difference between reaction and execution. If you've been maintaining that 360-degree awareness we talked about,
The continuous scan.
the continuous scan, you should already have a general idea of who's in your blind spot. That final check is just a confirmation.
But if you haven't been scanning,
Then the decision is infinitely riskier.
that makes sense. Okay, let's talk physics. We all know high speed equals high risk, but let's get specific on speed dynamics.
High speeds mean two things. One, dramatically increased stopping distance.
Obvious.
And two, significantly more space and time needed for a safe lane change. If you're going 75 miles per hour, a lateral move is a whole different ballgame than at 35.
Just because you cover so much ground so fast.
Exactly. And the faster you go, the more the little things, like a slight crown in the road or some pooling water, will compromise your grip during that sudden steering input.
And this ties directly into vehicle dynamics. There's a huge difference between a low-slung sedan and a big, high center of gravity SUV or truck.
Oh, absolutely. Larger, heavier vehicles have more inertia. They take longer to react to steering, and once they start turning, they're harder to straighten out.
And the rollover risk.
Critically, yes. High center of gravity vehicles are highly susceptible to rollover during sharp maneuvers. A small, sudden input that might be fine in a sports car could be incredibly dangerous in a loaded pickup. You have to understand your vehicle's limits.
Okay, what about the psychological barrier? Even if the space is clear, why do so many drivers just freeze? They fail to commit to the escape.
That's often the issue of target fixation. In an emergency, our brains tend to focus intensely on the hazard, the thing we're trying to avoid.
The back of the truck, the debris.
Right, and you stare at it, and you unconsciously steer toward it, even if an exit is wide open right beside you.
So how do you override that?
Proactive mental mapping. Constantly visualizing that exit path is the only way to override that panic response and steer to safety.
That's a huge nugget for the listener. Okay, finally, we have to talk about legal considerations and communication.
Right. While saving a life obviously takes precedence, misusing the shoulder or crossing a bike lane can get you in trouble if the move wasn't genuinely necessary.
It has to be justifiable.
Exactly, and communication is vital. Use your signals before you move. In a dire emergency, the horn or lights are your last-ditch tools to alert people in your path, especially pedestrians or cyclists. So if the successful execution really hinges on the quality of our continuous assessment, how do we operationalize this?
How do we make it a habit?
Yeah, how does a driver consistently identify and maintain that viable escape path?
It starts with turning scanning into an active habit. This isn't just random glances.
No.
You have to regularly sweep your road, your mirrors, your side windows, specifically hunting for open spaces, checking for debris, and inventorying fixed objects like parked cars.
You're proactively charting a safe corridor, and this feeds directly into tactical lane positioning.
What do you mean by that?
Well, a central position in your lane is good, but an experienced defensive driver often maintains a slight offset.
So you favor the left side of the lane if the right shoulder is clear.
Or vice versa,
Yeah.
to maximize the space you'd need for a sudden move to that side.
So the moment you feel yourself getting boxed in, surrounded by vehicles with no escape, that should trigger an immediate adjustment.
An immediate speed adjustment, yes. If you're flanked by two semis, you have zero lateral options.
So you have to either slow down to increase your following distance,
Or accelerate slightly to clear one side. You cannot wait for the crisis to realize you're pinned.
that dynamic adjustment is the core of planning ahead. You're always anticipating the next threat.
That's it. If you see brake lights way up ahead, you should already be mentally mapping where you would steer if the guy in front of you stops short.
You're visualizing the maneuver. If he stops, I'll steer gently right onto the shoulder.
Assuming that guardrail ends just past that bridge. That mental visualization is what separates the pro from the amateur. It makes the execution feel almost automatic.
And the linchpin of this whole system has to be the effective use of your mirrors.
Your mirrors are your early warning system. They don't just show you who is behind you, they help you track the behavior of vehicles in the next lanes.
Like a car that's rapidly closing speed, or one that's just pacing you in your blind spot.
Exactly. That dictates where you cannot move. You have to constantly adjust your own speed to keep those adjacent areas clear for yourself.
So the key function of the mirror is to confirm that space is clear before you start the maneuver.
To prevent a side swipe, your scan confirms the space, your signal communicates your intent, and then the movement is smooth and controlled. All right, let's synthesize this. Let's apply it to different environments, because the viability of an escape route is completely transformed by the road type.
Okay, let's start with highways and freeways. The shoulder is your primary safety net there.
It is, but because of the high speeds, that shoulder needs to be visually assessed much farther ahead than in city driving.
And crucially, those median barriers, the concrete dividers, they totally eliminate your left side escape option.
Which forces absolute reliance on the right shoulder and maintaining maximum following distance.
Now, urban streets. To me, these are the most challenging.
They are. The options are so severely limited. You have parked cars, double parked delivery vans, construction.
The available corridor shrinks to almost nothing.
And intersections offer potential escape routes, but they introduce their own hazards. Cross traffic, pedestrians, cyclists. You have to constantly be mentally inventorying these fixed obstacles.
Knowing which fire hydrant or parked truck is blocking your path.
Exactly.
And then finally, the really frightening one, rural or mountain roads.
Unforgiving. The shoulders are often soft or angled, or they just don't exist. They give way to steep embankments, ditches, rock faces.
And visibility is reduced by curves and poor lighting.
Right. So here, the focus shifts. It's less about a lateral escape and more about maximum controlled braking while still having just enough room to avoid the fixed objects on the side. The lack of a safe shoulder means slowing down is paramount.
Okay, given all that, let's go back to keeping routes open in heavy traffic. The 3-second rule is the baseline, but how do we force a gap when traffic is aggressive?
If you're in a dense pack, you have to treat that side escape space like a commodity you actively protect.
Oh.
You do it by slightly oscillating your speed. A very minor decrease will often open a gap next to you, letting you establish a staggered position instead of being parallel.
So you're not boxed in.
You're preventing that scenario. Use your signals early, too, not just for a turn, but to communicate any intent to change speed or position. It discourages others from aggressively closing that space beside you.
But inevitably, the route will get blocked. What's the contingency plan when your escape route is compromised by crowding or tailgaters or construction?
When your primary escape path is gone, the immediate, non-negotiable action is to stay calm.
Because panic leads to overcorrecting.
Panic leads to a sudden, often violent steering input, which is the last thing you want. You have to quickly analyze your surroundings for alternative secondary gaps. Maybe the shoulder opens up 50 feet ahead.
And if that secondary gap isn't there?
Then the safest course of action may be to just stay put. Slow down, increase your following distance as much as you can, and maintain your lane.
So a risky maneuver can be worse than the initial problem.
A sudden lateral move that causes a side swipe is often a much worse outcome than controlled deceleration into the primary hazard. If you are forced to make contact, you want that impact to be as controlled and predictable as possible. Let's talk about the absolute worst-case scenario, the one we all dread, when there is no escape route available.
You can't stop in time, and you can't steer away.
The threat is imminent and unavoidable.
At this point, the focus shifts completely to mitigating energy and protecting the occupant. First, maintain absolute control. Both hands on the wheel, braced.
Right. And contrary to your instinct, you want to avoid slamming the brakes unless you absolutely have to.
To avoid skidding.
Exactly. You want controlled deceleration. The goal is to scrub off as much speed as possible without locking the wheels, because if you can still steer, you can still adjust the point of impact.
And if you're being tailgated,
gently tapping the brakes repeatedly will flash your brake lights. It's a vital communication tool to signal the vehicle behind you to back off, hopefully mitigating a chain reaction.
if impact is truly unavoidable, we need to choose the least dangerous target. We talked about target fixation before, but now we're talking about controlled aim.
We are. Aim for soft targets. If you're forced off-road, try to position the vehicle toward grass or bushes, not concrete barriers or trees.
And for side impact.
Try to angle the front quarter panel to take the hit rather than accepting a direct T-bone.
Right.
It maximizes your vehicle's crumple zones. And finally, you have to brace. Back pressed firmly against the seat, head against the headrest to minimize whiplash.
Okay, now let's talk about how weather just fundamentally degrades all of this proactive planning. Weather doesn't just reduce visibility.
It destroys viability. It fundamentally compromises the friction circle.
The friction circle, explain that.
It represents the total amount of grip your tires have on the road. On dry pavement, that circle of available grip is large, but in heavy rain or on ice, that circle shrinks dramatically.
And every action braking, steering, accelerating uses up a piece of that circle.
Precisely. So if the circle is smaller, trying to steer and brake at the same time in an emergency uses up all the available grip.
And that leads to a skid or a total loss of control.
Which is particularly dangerous in rain and on snow or ice. Rain increases stopping distance and brings the risk of hydroplaning, where your tires are literally riding on a film of water. Any sudden steering can cause a spin.
And ice is just treacherous.
Extremely. Any lateral move, even onto a soft shoulder, requires incredibly gentle steering. You have to be aware of black ice, of reduced space from snowbanks.
And then there's fog and sun glare.
Both severely impact your ability to even identify an escape route. In heavy fog, hazards just appear out of nowhere. If you can't see the shoulder, you can't use it. The risk of steering into the unknown is simply too high.
Same with sun glare. It just blinds you.
Delays your reaction time. You have to slow down, increase your following distance, and keep that windshield spotless. If you can't see the path, you cannot use the path.
The ultimate message here is that when conditions are degraded, the only safe, proactive maneuver is to reduce your speed and massively increase that buffer zone. The physics of control are just working against you. #tag outro.
This whole deep dive has shown, I think, that planning escape routes to the side really transforms driving from a passive reaction into a proactive, continuous state of control.
It's a different mindset.
It is. It demands constant, specific assessment, from understanding the traction on a grassy shoulder to the legal implications of a maneuver. It requires us to treat every inch around our vehicle as a precious asset.
It's powerful knowledge. It really is. It empowers us to take charge of our immediate environment. This entire conversation has been about gaining control over what you can control. Your vision, your speed, your position. But as we look ahead, we have to consider the future. And since we know escape routes can be blocked by unpredictable drivers or conditions, this raises an important question for you to mull over.
What's that?
How does the rapid introduction and our increasing reliance on vehicle assistance technology, automatic lane departure warnings, advanced blind spot monitoring, how does that change a driver's psychological reliance on their own continuous scanning for those life-saving, split-second emergency escape routes?
That's a great question to end on. Until next time, stay safe, keep scanning, and remember that sometimes the best way out is to the side.
Please like, subscribe, and get notified.